Welcome back to ZE Coins. Today's video we are going to take a deep dive into the fascinating story of the 1970 Lincoln 1-cent penny coin. Many collectors and coin enthusiasts around the world are surprised to learn that a simple 1-cent coin from 1970 can actually be worth a lot of money in today's market. So stay with me until the end because we will cover the history behind the coin, the varieties that make some of them extremely rare, and the current market values you need to know if you happen to have one in your pocket or coin collection. Let's begin with a little background. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin replaced the Indian head cent and quickly became one of the most recognized coins in American history. By 1970 the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for over 60 years, and during that time several design changes and minting variations had occurred. The year 1970 is especially important for collectors because this was a period when the U.S. Mint was experimenting with different production techniques. Pennies from this year were struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint produced coins with slightly different characteristics, and some of those differences created valuable varieties that collectors still hunt for today. One of the most famous and valuable varieties is the 1970 South Small Date Lincoln Center. In San Francisco during 1970 two types of date styles were struck, the large date and the small date. At first glance these differences might seem minor, but to coin experts they make a huge difference in value. The small date version is considered the scarcer variety, and when found in high mint state condition it can be worth far more than face value. Collectors can identify the small date by looking closely at the numbers. On the small date the 7 in 1970 appears level with the 9 and the 0, and the loop of the 9 is more open compared to the large date. Another variety that makes the 1970 penny so special is the 1970s double die obverse. This error occurred when the coin die struck the design slightly out of alignment more than once. As a result the date and the letters in the word Liberty show visible doubling. This is one of the rarest and most desirable pennies from the entire Lincoln cent series. Examples of this coin in uncirculated condition have sold for thousands of dollars at auction. Now let's talk about values in detail. A regular 1970 penny from Philadelphia with no mint mark is usually only worth its face value if found in circulated condition. However, in higher grades such as mint state 65 or above, collectors will pay anywhere from a few dollars to as much as $20 or $30 depending on the quality. The 1970 D penny from Denver also carries a small premium in high grade, but in general it is considered more common. Typical values range from 1 cent up to about $15 for exceptionally preserved mint state examples. The real excitement begins with the 1970s mint mark pennies from San Francisco. A regular 1970s large date in circulated condition is worth about 1 cent, but uncirculated examples can bring $10 to $30. The 1970s small date, however, is much more desirable. In circulated grades it may sell for $20 to $50. In mint state condition values jump significantly, with coins selling for $100 to $300. If you find one graded MS67 or higher it can even reach over $1,000 at auction, and of course the superstar of this year is the 1970s double die obverse. This coin is so rare that even in lower grades it can fetch several $100s. In higher mint state grades the value can soar into the thousands. For example, some examples have sold for more than $20,000 when certified in top condition. So what should you do if you have a 1970 penny? The first step is to carefully examine the date to see if it might be the small date variety. Use a magnifying glass to check the alignment of the numbers. Next, look for signs of doubling, especially around the date and the word Liberty. If you think you have something special, it is best to get the coin professionally graded by a service like PCGS or NGC. A certified coin will always command a higher price and will make it easier to sell to collectors or at auction. Now let's talk about the current market. In recent years the demand for Lincoln cents has grown as more collectors realize how many varieties and errors exist in the series. The 1970 coins in particular have seen steady appreciation in value. While common examples are still worth just 1 cent, the rare varieties, especially the small date and double die, continue to perform strongly at auctions. As of this year the market value for a 1970s small date penny in top condition remains in the high hundreds to low thousands. The double die obverse variety still commands some of the highest prices, with serious collectors willing to pay tens of thousands for a flawless example. To wrap things up, the 1970 Lincoln penny may seem like just another ordinary coin in your change jar, but it holds an important place in numismatic history. From the small date variety to the rare double die obverse, this coin shows how tiny details can make a huge difference in value. If you have any 1970 pennies, it is worth taking a closer look because you might be holding a coin worth far more than 1 cent. We are going to dive into one of the most interesting coins from modern U.S. history, the 1985 Lincoln 1-cent penny. This little copper-colored coin is something you might overlook in your pocket change, but if you know the history and the details, you could be holding a coin that is worth a lot more than just a single cent. Let's start with the background. The Lincoln cent has been in circulation since 1909, when it was first introduced to honor the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. The design, created by Victor David Brenner, became the first circulating U.S. coin to feature a real person's portrait. By 1985, the penny had already gone through many decades of production, but the design still honored Lincoln on the obverse side, with the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, which had been in use since 1959, replacing the original wheat ears. Now here's something important about 1985. By that time, the composition of the penny had recently changed. Prior to 1982, the cent was made mostly of copper, about 95% copper with a small amount of zinc, but copper prices were rising and it became more expensive to mint a coin than the value of the coin itself. So starting in late 1982, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-plated zinc composition, meaning the coin was mostly zinc inside with only a thin copper coating. The 1985 Lincoln cents, therefore, are made of this new composition, weighing about 2.5 grams compared to the older copper cents that weighed 3.11 grams. This is one of the main reasons collectors pay close attention to cents from the early 1980s, because transitional errors and off-metal strikes can sometimes slip through. The 1985 penny was struck at 3 locations: the Philadelphia Mint, which struck coins without a mint mark, the Denver Mint, which used a D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint, which produced proof coins with an S mint mark. When we talk about value, we need to consider which mint struck the coin and whether it is a business strike or a proof strike. Most 1985 pennies you will find in circulation today are worth only face value, because billions were minted. Over 5 billion were made in Philadelphia alone and more than 5 billion in Denver. But not all pennies are created equal. Condition and rarity play the biggest role in value. If your coin has been in circulation and shows heavy wear, it will probably just be worth 1 cent, but if you have an uncirculated example in a high mint state grade, the value can climb. For example, collectors prize coins graded mint state 65 or higher by third-party grading services such as PCGS or NGC. At that level of preservation, a 1985 Philadelphia penny might sell for a couple dollars, while a 1985 D could be in the same range. But when we look at higher grades like mint state 67, the value can shoot up dramatically, because so few coins survive with nearly perfect surfaces free from scratches, spots and blemishes. Prices at auction have reached into the hundreds of dollars. In fact, a 1985 penny graded MS67 red has sold for over $700 at auction, making it one of the most valuable modern cents from this year. Proof coins from the San Francisco Mint are another story. Proofs are struck using specially polished dies and blanks to create mirror-like surfaces. They were sold to collectors in proof sets not released into circulation. A standard proof might only be worth a few dollars, but if it grades as a perfect proof 70 deep cameo, it could be worth a few $100. These top-grade proofs are scarce because even small imperfections under magnification will reduce the grade. Now let's talk about errors and varieties, which is where the real money can be found. Error coins are accidental mistakes made during the minting process, but they are highly sought after by collectors. A few known errors for the 1985 penny include off-center strikes, double dies, broad strikes and plating bubbles. The most dramatic errors, where a large part of the design is missing or shifted, can sell for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Doubling on the date or lettering, especially strong visible doubling, can also increase value significantly. So if you come across a 1985 penny that looks odd, be sure to check carefully and maybe even have it authenticated. As of the current market today, values remain strong for high-grade coins. With inflation and the increasing cost of copper, even though the 1985 penny is mostly zinc, collectors are paying premiums for top-quality examples. On average, a regular circulated coin is just worth 1 cent. An uncirculated roll might sell for a couple of dollars. A certified mint state 67 example could bring anywhere from $500 to $1,000 depending on demand, and rare errors could bring even more, especially if they are unique and dramatic. To summarize, the 1985 Lincoln cent may seem ordinary, but it carries a lot of interesting history. It represents the shift from copper to zinc. It was minted in massive numbers but still contains hidden gems that are worth serious money if you happen to have some. 1985 pennies. Check the weight, check the mint mark, and especially check the condition. If your coin looks flawless, it might be worth grading, and always be on the lookout for errors, because those are the true jackpots. That's going to wrap up today's video on the 1985 Lincoln penny. Before you spend that old change, make sure you know what you have, because the difference between 1 cent and hundreds of dollars might be sitting right in your coin jar. We are diving deep into the fascinating world of coin collecting, and we are going to talk about the 1993 Lincoln 1 cent penny coin. At first glance, this coin may seem like an ordinary copper-plated zinc penny that you have probably seen hundreds of times in your change, but hidden within this simple-looking coin is a history that stretches back over 100 years, and some examples of this coin can be worth a lot of money in today's market. Let us start with the history. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the very first regular issue United States coin to feature a real person instead of a symbolic figure like Liberty. The original design by Victor David Brenner included the famous portrait of President Lincoln on the obverse side. On the reverse we first had the wheat ears design that collectors today call the wheat cent, which ran from 1909 to 1958. After that, the mint switched to the Lincoln Memorial reverse, which was used from 1959 all the way until 2008. The 1993 penny falls into this Lincoln Memorial era. Now let us focus specifically on 1993. The D mint mark stands for the Denver Mint in Colorado, which produced hundreds of millions of these pennies that year. In fact, the Denver Mint struck over 6.4 billion pennies in 1993. That massive number means that most examples are very common in circulation. If you pull one from pocket change in circulated condition, it will usually only be worth its face value of 1 cent. However, as with all coins, the real value comes in when we look at condition, quality, and rare minting errors. So how much can a 1993 penny be worth? Well, for circulated examples it is usually just 1 cent. But if you find one in uncirculated mint state condition, especially graded by a service like PCGS or NGC, then values start to climb. A bright red mint state coin with full original luster can sell for a few dollars to collectors who want high-grade modern coins. The real money comes with the top population examples. For example, a 1993 Lincoln cent graded MS-67 red has sold for over $200 at auction. Extremely rare coins in MS-68 red have been reported to sell for several $1,000s since so few exist in that condition. Another factor that can make a 1993 penny valuable is a mint error. Error coins are mistakes made during the striking process, and collectors love them. Some examples that can be valuable include off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, double dies where the lettering or portrait shows doubling, broad strikes that expand the coin larger than normal, and clipped planchets where part of the coin is cut off. Depending on the severity and rarity of the error, some of these 1993 errors can bring in $50, $100, or even more. So if you have a 1993 penny in your possession, here is what to look for. First, check the overall condition. If the coin has heavy wear, scratches, or discoloration, it is likely only worth 1 cent. If it looks shiny with no wear, you may have an uncirculated coin. Under a magnifying glass, check for any oddities in the lettering, the date, or the mint mark that could indicate an error or variety. Also keep an eye out for the color designation. Collectors grade Lincoln cents as brown, red, brown, or full red. A full red penny with blazing color is much more desirable and valuable than a dull brown one. Now let us talk about the current market. As of today in 2025, the majority of 1993 pennies remain common in circulation and are not worth more than face value. However, certified high-grade coins continue to perform well at auctions and on collector markets. An MS-65 red might sell for $10 to $15. An MS-66 red can reach $50 to $75. And as mentioned before, MS-67 or MS-68 reds are the real prize pieces that can fetch hundreds or even thousands. Error examples also continue to bring premium prices depending on the type and rarity of the error. To sum it up, the 1993 D Lincoln penny is a modern coin with billions produced, so most are common, but the hidden gems are the pristine high-grade examples and the rare error coins. Always check your change carefully, because you never know when a coin that looks ordinary could actually be worth a nice amount of money. So the next time you see a 1993 D penny, do not just toss it aside. Take a closer look, because in the world of coin collecting, knowledge and attention to detail can turn a single cent into a valuable treasure. We are going to take a deep dive into one of the most fascinating modern-era pennies in United States coinage, the 1995 Lincoln 1-cent penny. This coin might look like just another regular penny at first glance, but in fact it has a history and background that makes it highly collectible, and in certain cases it can be worth a lot more than just 1 cent. So let us go step by step and explore its history, its design, its unique varieties, and of course the current market value. The Lincoln cent has been around since 1909, when it was first released to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln. It was designed by Victor David Brenner and featured the portrait of Lincoln on the obverse side. The reverse originally displayed wheat stalks, which gave us the famous wheat cent from 1909 until 1958. Then in 1959, to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the United States Mint changed the reverse design to show the Lincoln Memorial. This design lasted until 2008 before it was changed again in 2009, and then to the shield reverse that we know today. Now in 1995 the Lincoln Memorial design was still in use. The coin was struck in copper-plated zinc, which means it has a core of zinc with a thin outer layer of copper. The weight of the coin is about 2.5 grams and the diameter is 19 millimeters. Millions and millions of these coins were minted in both Philadelphia and Denver mints, and because of this huge mintage you might think that every single 1995 penny is common and only worth face value, but here is where the story gets interesting. The most famous variety of the 1995 penny is known as the 1995 double die obverse. This means that during the minting process a hubbing error created a doubling effect on the design elements of the coin, particularly the word liberty and the phrase "In God We Trust" on the obverse side. If you look closely at these areas on a double die example, you will see very clear doubling, especially on the letters. This makes it one of the most popular and widely collected double die coins of the modern era. Collectors seek it out because the doubling is strong and easily visible without a microscope, and that makes it desirable for beginners and advanced collectors alike. Regular 1995 pennies without any errors or special features are generally only worth face value, or maybe a few cents if they are in uncirculated condition, but the 1995 double die obverse can be worth quite a bit depending on condition. Circulated examples can fetch between $20 and $50. Higher grade examples that are certified by grading companies such as PCGS or NGC can be worth $100 or more, and coins in mint state grades, especially MS65 and above, can climb into the several hundreds of dollars range. In fact, some of the best quality examples have sold for over $1,000 at auction, making it a truly valuable find in your pocket change. Aside from the famous double die, there are also minor errors that can occur on 1995 pennies, including off-center strikes, die cracks, cuts, and repunched mint marks. While these errors are not as famous as the double die obverse, they can still add value to the coin depending on the severity and visual appeal. Collectors love unusual mistakes, and the value can range from a few dollars to over $100 depending on how dramatic the error is. Now let us talk about current market values. The market for the 1995 double die obverse remains strong even today because it is one of the last major double die varieties recognized by the minting community. With millions of collectors in the hobby, demand continues to support high prices. A typical circulated double die sells for between $20 and $50, and uncirculated examples sell for $100 to $300. In the current market, certified high-grade mint state coins can go even higher, and proof-like or exceptionally preserved examples have auction records of $800 to $1,500 or more. So if you come across a 1995 penny in your change, do not just toss it aside. Take a close look at the obverse under good lighting. Pay attention to the word liberty and the motto "In God We Trust." If you see strong doubling, then you may just have a coin worth far more than 1 cent. To summarize, the 1995 Lincoln 1-cent penny might be common in regular circulation, but the famous double die obverse makes it one of the most collectible pennies of the modern era. Its history connects back to the long legacy of the Lincoln cent, dating all the way to 1909, and its value today depends heavily on whether you have a normal coin or the special double die variety. Normal coins are worth a cent to a few cents, uncirculated ones maybe $1 or so, but the double die can range from $20 all the way into the thousands depending on condition. We are diving deep into the story, history, and the value of the 2004 Lincoln 1-cent penny coin, a coin that millions of people overlook every single day, but one that can actually hold surprising value depending on the condition, the mint mark, and whether or not it carries any special errors or varieties. Now let us begin with the history first, because the Lincoln cent is one of the most widely collected coins in all of American numismatics, and the 2004 penny fits into a larger story that stretches back over 100 years. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the first widely circulated U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure rather than allegorical images of liberty, and it became an instant success. The design by Victor David Brenner showed a portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse or the front, and the reverse originally featured two wheat stalks. This design lasted until 1958, and then in 1959. The design was changed to the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse to celebrate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth and the 50th anniversary of the Lincoln cent itself. The 2004 penny still carried this Lincoln Memorial reverse design because the new reverse program honoring different scenes from Lincoln's life would not be released until 2009. So in 2004 the Lincoln penny was still struck with the same familiar design people had been using for decades. But what makes it important to collectors is not only its history but also the fact that it was one of the last years before major design changes came, and certain coins from this year, especially with errors, can bring collectors significant money. Let's now talk about the specifications of the coin. The 2004 Lincoln cent was struck in copper-plated zinc, not in the original 95% copper composition of earlier decades. Instead, since 1982, the U.S. Mint had switched to using a core of zinc with a thin layer of copper on the outside. The coin weighs about 2.5 grams and measures 19 millimeters across. The obverse shows the portrait of Lincoln with the word Liberty to his left, the date 2004 to his right, and the motto "In God We Trust" above his shoulder, and below the date you may find a mint mark, either D for Denver or no mint mark for Philadelphia. Coin San Francisco also struck proof coins for collectors. Now let's move into the topic that most people want to know about: the value and worth of a 2004 Lincoln penny. First and foremost, circulated examples that you find in pocket change are usually only worth face value 1 cent unless they are in absolutely pristine condition or contain some kind of error. But in high mint state condition, coins graded by professional services can bring more than you might think. For example, a 2004 Lincoln cent from the Philadelphia Mint graded in mint state 67 red can sell for between $50 and $150 depending on demand. Higher grades like MS 68 red are rare and can bring several $100s or more. At the very top end, coins in MS 69 have been known to sell for thousands of dollars because of their extreme rarity with such perfect surfaces. Similarly, coins from the Denver Mint with a D mint mark can also bring strong prices in high grades. Proof coins from San Francisco with the S mint mark were specially struck for collectors with mirror-like fields and frosted details. A typical proof coin is worth a few dollars today, but perfect grade proof 70 deep cameo coins can sometimes sell for $50 to $100 or more. One of the most exciting aspects of the 2004 penny, however, is the possibility of errors and varieties. Coin collectors love these mistakes because they are accidental, one-of-a-kind pieces that stand out from normal issues. Some examples include double dies where the design shows doubling on the date, the lettering, or even the memorial building itself. Another example is off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the coin was not properly aligned when struck. There are also broad strike errors, clipped planchets, and die cracks, all of which can bring premiums depending on how dramatic the error is. In fact, some dramatic errors from 2004 pennies have sold for hundreds of dollars. Another key thing to understand is that the market value of these coins is always changing. It depends on how many collectors are searching for them, the grade of the coin, the demand at the time, and the rarity of the specific example. As of today, common circulated 2004 pennies are worth 1 cent, but uncirculated rolls can bring a small premium, maybe a few dollars above face value. High-grade certified coins can bring anywhere from $20 to $500, and the rarest top population coins or major error coins can reach into the thousands. Collectors often recommend that you always check your pocket change because while most of these pennies will just be normal 1 cent coins, you never know when you might find one with an error or in nearly perfect condition that could be worth much more. It is also important to store coins properly in protective holders to avoid scratches and discoloration, since condition plays the single most important role in value. To summarize, the 2004 Lincoln cent is an interesting piece of American history because it is part of the long-running Lincoln cent series that has been in continuous production for over a century. While most examples are common and worth face value, the special coins in pristine condition or Those with rare mint errors can bring serious money. Collectors continue to search for these gems, and that keeps the market active. If you happen to find a 2004 penny with a D mint mark, or even better one with an unusual error, be sure to check a price guide or get it graded, because you might be holding a coin worth far more than just a single cent. We are going to talk about a coin that many of us have in our pocket change, or maybe hidden away in a jar at home, the 2008 Lincoln 1-cent penny. This coin may look ordinary, but there is a lot more history and value behind it than most people realize, and in this video we will explore the background of this coin, why collectors are so interested in it, and what it is actually worth in today's market. The Lincoln cent was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It was the very first United States coin to feature the portrait of a real historical person. Before that, coins mostly used images of Lady Liberty. Over the decades the design changed, but Lincoln remained the face of the 1-cent coin. In 1959 the reverse or back of the penny changed from the wheat ears design to the Lincoln Memorial, which stayed on the coin all the way until 2008, making 2008 the very last year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design. In 2009 the United States Mint celebrated the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth with 4 brand new designs, so this makes 2008 pennies special, as they are considered the end of an era. When it comes to the details of the 2008 Lincoln cent, the coin was struck in huge numbers at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. The Philadelphia mint coins do not carry a mint mark, while the Denver mint coins feature a small letter D under the date. The composition of these coins is mostly zinc, about 975% zinc with a thin copper coating, making up about 25%. The coin weighs about 25 grams and has a diameter of 19 millimeters. Even though billions of these were made, there are certain conditions and errors that can make these pennies worth far more than 1 cent. So what makes a 2008 penny valuable? The key factor is condition. Collectors are always looking for coins that have been preserved in the best possible state. For example, a 2008 Lincoln cent in average circulated condition is only worth face value just 1 cent, but in uncirculated condition, graded as mint state, these coins can sell for anywhere from 25 cents to a few dollars. If the coin has been graded by a professional service and received a very high grade like mint state 67 or higher, then the value can jump significantly. Some examples have sold for more than $100. Error coins are another category that can make a simple penny worth a lot of money. Some of the most sought after errors on 2008 pennies include double die obverse, which means the lettering or date shows doubling off center, strikes where the design is not properly centered, and coins struck on the wrong planchet, which is when a penny is mistakenly struck on a blank meant for another coin. For example, if a penny was struck on a dime planchet, that would be extremely rare and valuable. Now let us talk about the market value today in 2025. The market for Lincoln cents, especially those from the late Memorial era, remains strong. Collectors love these coins because they mark the end of a long design run, and they are also very affordable for beginner collectors, which keeps demand high. An uncirculated 2008 penny fresh from a mint set can be worth $1 to $3. A certified high-grade example can range anywhere from 25 to over 100 depending on the grade and demand. Error coins can bring in much more, sometimes hundreds of dollars, depending on the type and severity of the mistake. One interesting thing to note is that even though billions of these coins were produced, finding one in truly perfect condition is not as easy as it sounds. Most pennies quickly get scratched or discolored in circulation, so collectors are willing to pay more for those rare pristine examples. That is why if you come across a 2008 penny in amazing condition, you should set it aside or even consider getting it graded. To summarize, the 2008 Lincoln 1-cent penny may seem like just another common coin, but its place in history as the last year of the Lincoln Memorial design gives it special importance. For collectors, value comes from condition, rarity, and error. Varieties in your pocket change, it is probably worth 1 cent, but in the collector's market a high grade or error coin could be worth much more, sometimes even hundreds of dollars. So next time you are going through your spare change, do not overlook those 2008 pennies, because you might just have a valuable treasure sitting right in your hands.